Coming up, what an excellent day for nothing. There is nothing excellent about this. I don't like this. I don't like this minute. I don't like this day. Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to Minute 39 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keaton Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Father Karras surrounded by these poor lost souls from the previous minute.
And it ends with his uncle saying, "Who got the money for that, Dimmy? You?"
So yeah, I like how we start with Father Karras again, and we end very much with son Dimmy. This whole minute, and then the top of the next minute, is a complete divesting of his priestly persona, right? Let's take a look at the top of this minute. So we're back at Bellevue, we're back in hell, and like we said, Father Karras the priest, is surrounded by these poor women who are reaching out to him, and at the very top of this minute, we see that he is trying to emulate Christ. He's reaching back out to them. He's holding their hands. He's trying to comfort them, trying to console. But in the end, it's just too much for Damien. It's too much. He's just a man trying to see his mother. He's not even supposed to be here as a priest. And Keenan, did you notice here that his collar, his priest collar, is undone? I had to go back to our previous minute just to see, and I can't believe we missed it. We didn't comment on it before. It had been undone the entire time from the moment he set foot in the hospital.
Yes, I think it's really interesting what happens with it here. Do you notice when you watch the scene what happens to his collar?
Wait, something happens to his collar?
Something happens to his collar, yes. I don't know what it's called, the little white band, the thing that pops his collar up.
Yeah, the little priest collar. I mean, it's another thing I don't know the name of.
There must be a name for it.
There's got to be a name for it.
Yes, but with the second group of women after Damien, he like breaks through for the first one. He's like, it's all simmering, and he ends up being more violent than he wants. I wouldn't necessarily call it violent, but more violent than he wants to be. Right? He breaks away, and then another group of women come up, and one of them steals the white thing out of his collar.
Are you shitting me? What?
I'm not shitting you. Yeah, so the nurse is trying to get her off of him, and one of the things that they seem to decide together is to let her just take this white thing. And so, okay, so you didn't notice that, which is fine.
No.
There's a lot going on.
No, Keenan, it's not fine. I have a podcast where we examine a movie minute by minute.
We excavate it, we extrapolate it.
I feel so ashamed.
No, it's great. I love this. I think
my
it's
God.
Wonderful. So she takes it, and he guesses what she does with it.
No.
You don't remember. She eats it.
What?
She tries to, at least. She tries to eat it, yeah. So she's kind of like a redheaded lady, and so the nurse comes up from behind her and is grabbing her and trying to get her hands off of Damien, and they're both, they don't necessarily make like an agreement, but it's like, okay, let her have that thing because I got to go over here. And the nurse is like, yeah, let's have her. And so then if you do follow her and track her, the nurse puts her down. And it, might be one of these semi-improvised things that happens. But in the next shot where we see Damien continue on to go talk to his mother, so we still have this woman in the next shot after we've cut, and the nurse is putting her to bed, and the woman has his priest thing, it'd be good if we had vocabulary, his white priest collar thing in her mouth. Yeah, she's trying to eat it. She's like sucking on it.
Oh my! Okay, I'm going back. Hang on. I have
okay, we're going to pause the podcast.
Am I having a stroke? Okay. Are we in an alternate universe? I know there are alternate like versions of his book, and now this is the version we've never seen, and I've never seen this thing. What?
All right, so
okay, hang on.
Let's pause it for people. We're pausing people at home.
Okay. Okay. Oh my God. She did. What?
Isn't that pretty crazy?
Oh my God. How did I miss that?
Well, because you're paying attention to what you're supposed to be paying attention to.
Oh my God. Folks, I mean, like everybody else who's listening to this podcast is like, why is this guy the host? What? Like, oh my God.
Oh. No. I love that we do this and that you point out things I've never noticed and I point out things you've noticed. And then we get a guest on like Andy and Ian and they point things out.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh my God. Forgive me, listeners, for I have sinned. Wow. And a little bit like that's now I'm thinking of like communion, and I'm thinking of like the little communion wafers, and like she has her own little communion wafer thingy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that might be it. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And okay, so that like very, very intentional, right? Like now he's completely divested. He has no more like even the little priest collar is gone.
Right.
Oh my God. That like, thank you for pointing that out. Thank you. Like, and like, I joke about like how like unobservant I am, but like,
no.
Like there might be listeners out there who also have missed that. So like, thank you for like, this is a good thing that we pointed out.
Yeah. And if you have anything at home, tell us about it, because we can't get everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Right. 4 eyes on this thing. And it, wow. Okay. So like, yeah. So he like it's been undone the entire time since the moment that he set foot in the hospital, and then it's like taken away further when he's in this room, as we just saw, which begs the question: why not just go in there with another shirt, right? Like
he has other shirts.
He has other shirts.
We've seen them.
Dimmy, you have other shirts. Why? Like he's not coming as a priest. He's coming as a son. Like in the same way that he doesn't want this hospital to know that he's a doctor, he doesn't want them to know that he's a priest, or does he? Mm-hmm. And yeah, there are logical, logistical, real world reasons. Maybe he's coming straight from work. Maybe he just did a mass. He looks rushed, like he dropped everything as soon as he found out his mother is in this horrible place, right? Like he's like, you should have called me the minute it happened, right? He says to his uncle. And I can actually see that scene in my mind. He's at his desk, or he's, and he gets the call. Uncle Titos on the other line says, it's really funny.
I got a good story. I hope you're sitting down.
Yeah, are you sitting down, dude?
This is so funny.
and that's when it cuts, right? Oh, Uncle Titos. Oh, actually, wait. Uncle Titos, I was watching the movie again here at home. It's like the family's like, let's watch this movie, right? Like, and I'm like, this is my work, but like, yes, okay. One thing, Keenan, when we do these, and I want to check with our fellow minute by minute podcasters who also do this. Like, you watch this movie minute by minute, and you're taking notes and everything like that. You're talking about 1 minute of the film at a time. Like, I wonder if like when they watch it all the way through, like a normal person, like a non-crazy person, like for me, this movie goes by fast when you're watching it like that. Like I'm like,
that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people don't want to watch the movie ever again after they go through and do 130 episodes of it.
Right. But yeah, so, but I was rewatching the scene with, where Dimmy was, at his mom's home, and she's in her rocking chair, and she says, "Your Uncle John passed by to see me."
That's right. Yeah. Not Uncle Titos, Uncle John.
But is this the uncle? Is Titos Uncle John? Or is this another uncle?
Oh, that's right. We're calling him Titos because he's not named in the movie.
Right.
We're calling
Titos
him that
is the actor's
name, right?
Right.
Right. So this must be Uncle John. Yeah, that's probably right.
I'm just going to call him Uncle Titos.
I prefer that.
Yeah. Because he behaves like an Uncle Titos.
And the credits, he doesn't have any name. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uncle John Titos. Okay. But yeah.
And he's real funny.
He's really funny.
I'll tell you this.
Even his IMDb picture, like he looks like he's just like a funny guy.
That's another thought experiment, like to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern this, like to where you take Hamlet and you look at it from the point of view of minor characters, right? Mm-hmm. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead by
Timon and Pumbaa.
Timon and Pumbaa, right? Lion King 1.5 is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead for the Lion King crowd, right? Like at the end of all of this, like a year later, Uncle Titos is in a bar and they're like, "Oh, whatever happened to your nephew? I haven't heard about it." Oh, have I got a funny story for you? His head all the way around.
He's got to reenact it with his pint.
Right, exactly. He sits above. He's like, "Well, I had a nephew, but it's a funny story, I tell you."
Oh, Uncle Titos.
2 dead priests. 1 dead movie director. You would not believe it.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. Oh my God. Yeah. So Karras gets a call from his uncle, right? And now they're at the hospital, right? And I know there are like a bunch of logical reasons that he's still dressed as a priest, right? That was the question, right? Before we got sidetracked with Uncle Titos, right? It's like why come dressed as a priest at all, right? If you're not like meaning to.
Right.
And I know, like I said, a bunch of logical reasons he's still in uniform, and just as many logical reasons why we could have had him wearing normal clothes in the scene. And so I think this like halfway point between priest and regular guy is a conscious decision. He's still clothed in the church, but it's coming undone. It's unraveling.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. But this also begs the question, okay, so Keenan, I think you and I agree that this scene, which started in the previous minute, this scene of Karras and his uncle entering the hospital, this is a scene in which our character fails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he fails at what he has come here to do. Now, my question is the movie telling us that he's failing at being a priest? Right? We got the collar undone. We got somebody taking the collar, right? He hasn't done it yet, but he shrugs these people off in a very unpriestly, unchristian way, right? Like you even called it violent, right? And I would agree with that. Or is the movie showing his failure as a son, right? He's coming in here to get his mother out. Because that's how it ends. That's how the heartbreaking climax of this scene is, with him as a son, not as a father. So again, why have the priest collar there at all, especially if you're going to go to the trouble to show us that it's unbuttoned? That's a statement about his faith being unbuttoned. So this must be a commentary on both, right? This is a failed rescue mission, a failed harrowing of hell, but it's also a failed reconciliation between mother and son. And so now I'm wondering, okay, if it's both, is this causation or correlation?
That's a great question.
Yeah. And just in case our listeners are unfamiliar with those terms, right? Causation, correlation. I mean, I was unfamiliar with them until like recently. A good example they use in my science classes at the school that I teach is like, hey, you ever notice that ice cream sales spike during July, and also there's a rise in cases of sunburns? So if you were going the causation route, you would say one of these things causes the other. You'd say ice cream causes sunburn. Don't eat ice cream, right? I did my research. Look at the data. It's very clear that whenever ice cream is sold in large numbers, lots of people end up with sunburns. So sunburns are a direct result of eating ice cream.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
The one that I like is over time, like from the 90s on or whatever, it's like divorce rates rise at the same level as people use Internet Explorer. So Microsoft's Internet Explorer is the cause of your parents breaking up.
Wow. Microsoft Internet Explorer, right? Breaking homes since...
Take your time, Internet Explorer. Take your time.
Yeah. And of course, that's wrong. That's silly. This is actually a result of correlation. Right? Correlation. These things are happening at the same time, right? So because it's summer, because it's hot, people are buying a lot of ice cream, and people are also coincidentally getting sunburn, right? But one is not the cause of the other.
So
right?
As time goes on, people use more Internet Explorer because it gets bundled into more operating systems, and your parents got divorced because you weren't a very good child.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
You heard it here, folks. No. No, of course that's not true. That's not true. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
For everybody out there? That can't be true.
I cannot speak for everybody. You are right. But for the vast majority,
for most of you, sure.
You're putting me in the hot seat here, Keenan. Okay, so so this is the causation versus correlation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we got this double failure by Karras here: failure as a priest and failure as a regular guy, failure as a father, failure as a son. Right? So is Friedkin saying his crisis of faith is causing his crisis with his mom? Or is he saying there's a deeper problem that's causing both? Like they're both related to this other problem that he has. It's manifesting in both of these ways. These are symptoms of the fundamental problem of Dimmy, right? So we got the problem of evil, and now we got the problem of Dimmy, right? How do you solve a problem like Dimmy?
Right. Oh, that's a hard name to rhyme.
Yeah, right.
That's a really interesting question, Lester. And I wonder, like I think it's one of those in a well-constructed movie that doesn't necessarily answer all these questions for you. Like both of those paths are strong paths for you to think of the movie that way. So is Damien's lack of whateverness causing both his failures as a child and a priest? That's really interesting. Or is he is he doing poorly as a priest because he's seeing his personal life despairing in his personal life?
Right.
Or, right, is he doing so poorly as a son partially because he's doing so poorly at work, right?
Right.
And having this crisis of faith, yeah.
Yeah, like this is something you can like examine, extrapolate, and excavate. Yeah.
But you could write term papers on it, and they're there's evidence for all of them.
Right. I mean, we were talking like even before, right? People like there must be a reason that we see his life with his mother and his relation with his mother, so early on, and we see like the conditions that she has to live in and all this stuff, right? And even you go into her house and there's all this religious paraphernalia, right? There's the crucifix, there's all the pictures and like the shrine to Mary, like we remember, and what that must be kind of playing upon Damien's psyche is that like this is the calling that I have answered. Like I am serving the church, but look at how the church is treating my mother. Like, look at, like, isn't this supposed to be so I'm supposed to, follow this God and believe in this God, right? So you could say it's like, this is a chicken and egg thing. Like, okay, like seeing how it's like, I answered the call to the priesthood and yet my mom is suffering. So like that makes him feel a certain way about the priesthood, but then also it could be the other way, the other thing first, right? Like,
right. Yeah, there's this tension for Dimmy and for any priest who has a family of any kind, right? Like, yes, honor your mother and father, right?
Right.
Jesus says that you can undo a lot of the rules of the Old Testament, but to keep the Ten Commandments, right, close to you.
Yeah.
So honor your father and mother, but at the same time, as it's not often quoted because it's one of the harder parts of the New Testament for us to deal with. But that Jesus said that he was here to bring a war between child and parent.
Oh, I'm unfamiliar with that.
Oh God! Well, I better double check that that's correct.
This is the episode, folks. This is the episode where we lose all integrity. I missed the priest collar thing. We will. Okay. Well, it is our responsibility to go and check that out. And we will have an answer for you guys. But no. Okay. But this is also valid because this is something that I mean, you have experienced that information in some way, right? So like whether it be correct or not, like this is. I mean, this must be kind of like the message that a lot of people are getting. So, like, yeah, expand on that. Like,
it's what Jesus said. Okay, so I'm finding it here. Yes, that he's here to bring a war between father and son, mother and daughter. He is going to undo everything that is done and to bring about a new way.
Interesting.
Yes. Now, I'm not a religious advisor. Don't take any of my
neither of us are.
Advice there. Yes. Hold on. I need to look. Hold on a minute.
Okay, so
let me look.
More elevator music here.
Put this into context.
I'm so excited to find elevator music. Right, what an excellent day for elevator music.
I've gone too far. Bible.com. All right. I'm back. I've been to Bible.com.
This was truly a harrowing experience.
This is Matthew 10.
Okay.
So here I'm at Matthew 10:34.
Okay.
This is Jesus speaking, not me.
Okay.
This is your Lord and Savior, Lester. This isn't me. Okay. So at the same time as he
I have a question about that. But
at the same time as he says to keep the Ten Commandments, honor your mother and father, he also says, don't think I've come to make life cozy. I've come to make a sharp cut between son and father, daughter and mother, bride and mother-in-law, cut through these cozy domestic arrangements and free you for God. Well-meaning family members can be your worst enemy. If you prefer father or mother over me, you don't deserve me. If you prefer son or daughter over me, you don't deserve me.
Interesting.
Yeah, man.
He used wait. This reading uses the word cozy.
Well, this is the Bible.com version.
Okay,
Do you want me to pull up the King James?
No. No, there's just as many inaccuracies in the King James as well. Cozy, like, hey, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Jesus. Matthew, what was it?
Oh God, where am I? Matthew 10.
Matthew 10. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. No. Okay. Well, you know what? I have opinions about, like, when I read certain things in the Bible that seem negative, or they seem to kind of ostracize or put down or subjugate or other certain, like, groups of people or certain values that you look at and you're like, no, that's a just like an inherently good thing, right? Like love between mother and son, mother and father, mother, father and daughter, all that, like that. And I always wonder when we come across these, less, kind or empathetic parts of the Bible. That's when I kind of question. I was like, okay, when was that added? By whom? And, like, what was the agenda of that person when they added it? Because, again, folks, like, we talk about, like, a 2,000-year-old game of telephone called the Bible, right? And we have 2,000 years, and people are like adding things to it. They're erasing things from it. They are highlighting certain things that probably like the writers, the first writers, like, weren't even giving, like, a second thought to, like the thing with the fig tree and all that stuff. It's like, and you were talking about, like, Keenan, like, people's bandwidth, right? Depending on your bandwidth, like what weight do you give the story about Jesus saying, this is bad, and, you shall not do this, or whatever, versus the one where, like, he helps somebody that nobody was helping. Right.
Yeah. Saving the adulteress from being stoned, and cursing the fig tree for not giving him fig fruit.
Right.
Is about the same amount of page time in the Bible.
Yeah. Right.
But how can you own those both in your heart at the same bandwidth? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And it could be like, depending on, like, the household that you were brought up in and the values that you were kind of given, growing up. And I think this sounds like such a cop out, but I think it is. At the same time, it's a matter of just kind of, like, going with your gut and being like, that doesn't sound right. And, like, I'm saying that right now, folks. I mean, like, other religious people might not agree with me, but, like, you can certainly, and I have certainly, like, looked at parts of the Bible and said, I don't agree with that. And yeah, I agree with this other thing. Like, I agree with, like, I always do, like, the litmus test of, like, love everyone and treat everyone as you would want to be treated. Okay. Does this other part of the Bible jive with that? No. Well, then I'm tossing it out.
If you aren't Catholic or weren't raised Catholic, you might not know this term, but the term of Cafeteria Catholic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, you don't know that term either? Well, I have a friend, and I'm like, oh, you're Catholic. She's like, I don't know if I'd identify that way now, but certainly if I am, I'm a Cafeteria Catholic. Yeah. You go down the line, and you pick this, and you leave that, and you pick the other thing.
Hey,
you get extra servings of this. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to argue for that, I mean, some of that food in that line is kind of rotten. So, they should have changed it out when they were swapping out the trays. I'm just saying.
But okay, so if I can get back to Karras here, so sorry to make that big detour, but right.
And just an extra little thing. So, I mean, again, this is like, we're learning so much about history. We're learning so much about language. There's so much stuff that we are discovering even now about the Bible, like mistranslations and things that were taken out, put back in, blah, blah, blah. Like we talked about, like with Moses and the horns, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or just like the idea of hell being like an actual place versus like a state of mind, and like all of this stuff. And we're going to go into, like, I think later I'm going to talk about, like, we have like names of demons, which actually, like, if you like translate back to its original thing, could just be like depression or something like that, right? Like, so again, like we gotta look deeply into these things, and figure out, it's like, it's all like, interpretation is a full-time job. is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Well, this segment here, and I looked up the King James, so this is what it says in the King James.
Oh boy.
Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword.
Wow.
That's Jesus. Who does like this passage very much. I said that, people don't talk about it very much because it's troublesome or inconvenient, or doesn't quite jive with their favorite parts of the Bible, right?
Yeah.
But who does like it a lot were Italian communists. So there was I think the best movie about Jesus is one from an Italian communist anarchist homosexual called Pier Paolo Pasolini. You might have seen his Salo movie, which is this really disgusting movie where it's like an adaptation of the 120 Days of Sodom, but set in like fascist times in Italy, and like using the fascists as a stand-in for those terrible people. He made a movie called The Gospel According to St. Matthew, and he highlights this part. He loves this part because that jives with the political messaging of communism, right? That it's not as important to love your mother and love people that you are supposed to love. According to the old society, you're supposed to love everybody equally.
Interesting.
Which, that's a way of interpreting what Jesus is saying here. So how can care? Oh, go ahead.
And I completely, sorry. I'm hanging on this thing. But like when you first read that also made me wonder, it's like, well, I mean, I wonder if you could like also take it like another way, is that, I mean, cause Keenan, like when, and everybody knows, I suppose, like we just got done with like a string of holidays where everybody gets together around a table, and they're eating and they're talking, and politics and religion are going to come up, and loyalties are going to be, lines are going to be drawn in the sand, and people are going to stand on one side or another. And when you first read that, I kind of interpreted it as that. It was like, there are like, you might have, differing opinions about the interpretation of the Bible than your mother or your father or your, your Republican uncle or your Uncle Titos,
cousin,
right? Or your vegan cousin, right?
Yeah, Uncle Titos.
Uncle Titos loves it. He thinks all of it's really funny. But it's like, so, and I wonder if you could interpret it that way, as Jesus saying, it's like, hey, just so the stuff that I'm talking about is going to be really, really divisive now and forever. Like people are always going to be arguing about how to interpret what I say. And, it might cause a rift between, family members and things like that. Like I could just as easily see him like saying that as kind of like a warning. It's like, hey, I came here to preach peace, but also like I'm going to get a lot of people mad and arguing, and maybe like if we're not careful, like some families are gonna be torn asunder by this.
Yeah, I don't know, Lester. He says that's his job. I mean, so interpret it how you want. He says, "I am not here to send peace." But again, this is in one of the Gospels and not all of the Gospels, which is a whole other can of worms. Yeah.
And again, none of the Gospel writers were there when that was going on. So it's all he said, she said. He with a capital H, right? It's all he said, she said. Yeah.
But I mean, that's we as laity, like
lay
this
people,
is the kind of conversation that we're having. But again, imagine this man who is both the psychiatrist and a priest and a son, and what he has to think about as he's going there. Yeah. And he seems to, as you say, he starts off in the beginning of the scene, sort of halfway through. I really like that a lot, halfway between priest and not priest, and by the end of it, he's just son, right?
He's completely stripped. He is like down to the rawest, most like tender version of a son that you could be.
Yeah, and kind of already in his mourning clothes, right? If he takes off his if he takes off the white part, right, and some lady eats it, then it looks like he's at the funeral, right?
Oh my God! Now he's all dressed in black. Oh my God! Oh geez. But okay, so let's get back to Karras, surrounded by these women, trying to be priest-like, trying to be Christ-like, but in the end, it's just too much. He shakes them off very violently. He's had it. He's done. And folks, that mask is back. That mask goes back up. Right? Remember that mask, as he was going to see his mother on that New York street, right? And as he was walking out of the apartment, right? That mask, that same mask, of not letting emotion in is, or maybe perhaps out, is back up, right? as he passes even more women, even more lost souls. He is trying so hard not to look at them, not to see them, as he continues that long walk to his mother's bed. The first of a series of long walks to beds that this character is going to take. We get another wide shot just as he stops in front of his mother's bed, and he is now very small, all the way at the other end of this room. In the foreground, we can see these women, and it seems like they're back to being shades of their former selves, although you can see in the bottom right of the screen, it looks like one of them is still praying with hands clasped, as if perhaps the passing of this holy man is still felt on some level. And the fact that he didn't stop but passed them over, right? Like maybe that is what these people are feeling.
And then I like it how much he stands out with his black clothes, right? Everyone else is in these whites, these hospital whites, or maybe a light blue, as if they're trying to give them some kind of dignity with some, non-hospital clothes. But he stands out like a sore thumb.
Yes. Very, very sore thumb. From here, we cut to Dimmy's face. And boy, that mask didn't stay on for long. It's all the way gone now, folks. This shot right here is the most raw we have ever seen Dimmy. And I keep wanting to call him Dimmy here because that is very much what he has been reduced to here. He is a child again. He is a lost child looking for his mama. And he calls her mama and the emotion behind that word when he speaks. Mama, it's Dimmy. Mama.
Yeah, I like that you say he's a child. I mean, even when you just look at the lighting of it, they make him look younger, right? I mean, where a light is in relation to an actor's face can do all sorts of really interesting work. We talked about that briefly with like German expressionism and how that influenced horror lighting. Where the brightest light is the key light. And here he looks so much younger and less hard. Like he looks less like a boxer. Doesn't he? Yeah, just the way that we put this light in this prettifying way across the other side of the camera from him.
Just all the soft edges, right?
Yeah. And he's a little bit moist, I guess. He looks like looks like a kid. Yeah.
Right. And at the sound of her son's voice, Mary Karras awakes. And I don't care what anybody says. You tell me that Vasiliki Maliaros is not an actor. You tell me she's never done anything before or since. I don't care. Because the look she gives her son and the small, helpless way she says, Dimmy, is enough to completely shatter me. That is a look that could melt stone. And then she says, why you did this to me, Dimmy? Why? No. I hate this, Keenan. I hate this. Keenan, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. We got to stop. Let's stop. Let's close this show. Let's shut it down. We can do another movie, any movie. Keenan, why you do this to me? Uncle Titos.
All right. We'll switch to Lion King 1.5.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's done it.
There we go.
It's all laughs. All warthog fart jokes all the time.
Yeah. Oh.
Get some Nathan Lane in there. That's what we need.
Yeah. Oh my God. If Nathan Lane was playing Father Karras, Mama,
what's the matter with you?
It's Dimmy, Mama.
All you need is some music, some show lights.
I feel bad for making light of this thing, but folks, this is for my survival, folks. Okay, so this is so I can keep doing this because, good God, this scene. Jesus, more than anything, guys, this scene right here, it's hard, right? And it reminds me, I think this is in the book, it's not in the movie, but Kinderman actually says something to this point. He says, because he's going and he's talking to Chris and they're doing the whole investigation, which we'll see later, but he makes a little joke. He makes a little schmaltzy joke. And he's like, I apologize, but, every now and then a laugh just to keep us from crying. And I was like, yeah, we need that. And we need that right now. Oh my God.
So it's a laugh to keep us from crying. Lesser, is that your motto?
You know what, Keenan? I would say it's my problem-free philosophy. But as we learned in that movie too, sometimes we gotta deal with these heavy feelings and these heavy scenes, right? So she says, why you did this to me? And it's not even the right line. The line we keep repeating is why you do this to me. But she says, why you did this to me, which is so much worse. And I don't know why.
Oh, I don't know why either. Yeah. We used to say that to each other for a while. We'd say, oh, Lester, why you do this to me?
Yeah. Right.
And I don't know why that's so much worse.
You know what? And it might just be me, but later in the book, Karras goes back to her home and he's looking through her belongings, and there's like an English grammar book. And he opens it, and it's like a workbook. So you write in it, and he sees some of his mother's writing, and like the first lesson is like my complete address, and then the second lesson is like an attempt at like a letter that she tried to write him, and it just says, Dimmy, I've been waiting. And then it never finishes. So she's learning English and she's trying to communicate with her son.
Right.
And she started this letter and it never finished, and he doesn't find it until later. And so I don't know, maybe that extra little bit of information is like she says, why you did this to me in this bed. And I'm just like, oh my God, she's trying so hard to be like grammatically correct when she's like speaking this. Like she's opening her heart to her son, right?
Oh. When Brokeback Mountain came out, it had a catchphrase. Surprisingly, it had a catchphrase. That's a very serious movie, right? But people all around would say, "I wish I could quit you."
Yeah.
And so in one of my classes, my teacher said, "I wish I could quit you." Being like, oh, he had been too nice to one of the students. So oh, I wish I could quit you. I said, actually, it's I wish I knew how to quit you. And my teacher said, "Oh, that's not funny."
Well, there we go, right? So so from there we cut back to Dimmy, and again, Keenan, it's like we were talking about in previous minutes. We're just looking at his face. It's very still. He doesn't say anything, but we see so much hurt, so much devastation. His heart has just sunk all the way down to his feet. In this moment, he is broken. This is the confirmation that he was dreading, right? Talking about Catholics, right? This is the confirmation that he was dreading. Forget being an unworthy priest. Forget being judged or condemned by God. If Christ were standing there and he said to Karras, why have you done this, right? It would not sting half as much. This is his mother, his mama, and she basically said, why have you forsaken me? And how do you go back to God after that? How can you live with yourself after that? This would break anybody. This is a person-breaking moment. And the worst part, Kanan, she's not pointing a finger at him, condemning him. She's not saying, how dare you do this to me? For shame. She is pleading. She is genuinely confused. She doesn't understand. Her question is not a rhetorical. It's not like, how could you do this? It's like, why? I don't understand. I'm so happy whenever I see you. Keenan, you remember that when we first meet her, how happy she was that her son had come to see her. Oh my God, I hate this.
Yeah, that first time we see her, there's that great transition that the actor does again, right? Where it's going from sleep to waking up, and that she's going through all of that, of being confused. Where am I? What time is it? So seeing Dimmy doesn't matter. And so here in her last living scene this actor has, right? It's again like we are like waking up, confused, where am I? And then remembering, and it's the opposite reaction, right? So it's all this pain.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay, but so Karras rallies. He moves in. He tries to tell her everything's going to be all right. He reaches out. And to me, it's this like sad irony that his attempt to comfort, his attempt to console, this is what a priest does. This is what Christ does. It's a laying of hands. It's an attempt to heal, and it's rejected. And not by just anybody, by his own mother.
All right. I don't want to complicate anybody's faiths again, but the Bible does say in at least one of the Gospels, perhaps two of them, I don't remember, that while Jesus is going to be crucified, his mother, Mary, comes to him and tries to reach out to him, and he says that you're not my mother. I don't know what you do. Put that in your Christian pipe and smoke it. Jeez. How do you explain that? Right. Obviously, theologians have worked on that, because that's a major moment.
Yeah. But actually, so, I mean, like, I remember you mentioned that previously, Keenan, and I looked it up. I tried to look at, and I couldn't find that exact.
God. Well, I will look it up now. Jeez, you're going to pause again. Hold on. BibleHub.com. All right. All right, you cut this out. Maybe on break I'll be able to find something and look at what the hell I'm talking about. Maybe I'm misremembering from a movie, which is very possible.
Could be. Right?
I've read the Gospels, I swear.
And like even if it is there, I'm wondering again. It's like when I see stuff like this in the Bible where they're like, see, Jesus said to this person, F off. Well, that means that, I always wonder, it's like, was that like the church just like putting words in his mouth? Was that, like because they had an agenda? They were like, it's like, oh yeah, Jesus rejected his mother because, hey, the church is more important than your family. You gotta, be with us.
Well, all right. Well, here's Jesus saying exactly what you just said.
Oh.
So this is Mark 3.
Okay.
A crowd was sitting, this, I don't know which translation this is. And a crowd was sitting around him, and they said to him, your mother and your brothers are outside seeking you. And he answered them, who are my mother and my brothers? And looking about those who sat around him, he said, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God, he is my brother and sister and mother.
Interesting. Well.
And that is in Mark, Matthew, and Luke.
Wow. Okay. All three of them. Wow. Thanks, guys. This calls for some introspection here after the recording. Oh boy. It's funny. It's really funny.
It's really funny. Jesus, he said something really funny.
Oh God. Uncle Titos as Pontius Pilate.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Have you seen Bowie as Pontius Pilate?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
I really, really like
Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ. Yeah, Bowie.
Last Temptation. Okay, God, I gotta. All my credibility is just like falling away. I have to watch that movie. I really like the first Pontius Pilate in the original cast of Superstar.
Mm-hmm.
He's really cool, and he's in The Shining.
Oh, is that right?
He plays a small part. I think he plays Watson. I might be wrong about that, but he is definitely in that movie. Yeah, I like his interpretation.
Yeah, that's great.
And Herod is always fun in that. Yeah, maybe Titos would be Herod.
Pilate in Bowie is great as Pilate in The Last Temptation of Christ, the Scorsese one. But Life of Brian's Pontius Pilate is the best.
Oh yes,
right. When he says Roman, it sounds like woman.
This is Rome.
The
ambassador of Rome.
All right. Well, we have done a lot of research live in episode,
yes,
which we normally don't do.
Mm-hmm.
So where the hell are we?
Yeah. Aren't you happy for that, folks? Like you got to come with us on that journey. Whew. Boy, oh boy. We're in one of Dante's circles right now. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So I wish I knew what Karras's mother was saying here, right? I looked all over to see if there were any like scripts or translations, right? Because she's speaking in Greek, and every script that I look at, every a website that I look at, it says she's speaking in Greek, and I couldn't find anything. Actually, I'm kind of glad I don't understand what she's saying. Because like that one little thing in that like kind of like half correct English, broke me into pieces. So if I could hear like what else she was saying, that would probably not be good. But yeah, if anyone speaks Greek, and knows what she is saying here, please, write us in, the Exorcist Minute at gmail.com and let us know.
Yeah. They might have just let her say whatever she wanted to say.
Yeah. Right? That's what I'm thinking.
Glad he doesn't know Greek, probably.
Right. So just improvising there a little bit. And I want to hear Mrs. Maliaros's like contribution to this movie.
I have a teacher who is Japanese American but doesn't speak Japanese, and she wrote Letters from Iwo Jima, the Clint Eastwood movie.
Oh, whoa, okay.
Yeah, and so she doesn't. That's like the Battle of Iwo Jima from the point of view of the Japanese soldiers.
Right.
So she doesn't speak Japanese. Paul Haggis, the producer, doesn't speak Japanese. Clint Eastwood doesn't speak Japanese. So they wrote it in English and then Haggis and Eastwood approved it, and they went there, and then they like had the Japanese actors. They're like, all the actors they had spoke English and Japanese.
Right.
So they're like, here's the script, and like just speak Japanese. And it was like, well, should we get someone who's interpreting? Like, nah, just trust these people, just totally trust them. So
yeah.
So I believe that like Ken Watanabe, who plays the lead, was sort of the if I remember the story right, sort of the liaison for like translating properly and just double checking everything. But yeah, the director, producer, writer don't speak it enough to know what they're saying in reality.
Interesting. Well, now I want to go and see that movie because, like,
really good.
I mean, I'll understand it and I'll be able to see if it's like, because, you can do a word, like I think we talked about in this show, like you can do a word for word translation that's not going to have the same, like impact or underlying tone or like even cultural, connections.
Right.
Somebody might communicate something in a completely different way. Like my favorite is the way to say, how are you? Or one of the ways to say how are you in Mandarin Chinese is just have you eaten yet?
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah, and it's just like that's a cultural thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you try to translate that word for word, like us walking around in the United States being like, have you eaten yet? Have you eaten yet? Like it gets some of the message across. It's like, I care about you. I want you to, like be, well fed and cared for, but it's different from like, how are you? Right.
Mm-hmm. Or in, I don't speak Chinese, so you'll have to, but I've heard this from other friends of ours that like in the translation for a lot of Chinese films where they like talk to noblemen, right? It's about a lot of Chinese films are about commoners and then their interactions with noble people and the lords and the emperor. So like in English, we'll translate that into the subtitles as that when they're talking to the noble people, it's a little bit more like how we would have it like, oh, sir, et cetera, et cetera. I'm lowering myself in my language in order to elevate you, but in Chinese it doesn't quite work the same way.
Right. Yeah. It's a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more like baked into the language. And it, like, as a result of that, you have like when they're doing like the stereotypical, I'm thinking like Japanese as well. They'll, when they do a stereotype of a Japanese person speaking English, they'll be like honorable this and honorable that. And that's not a direct translation. It's like there is a slight kind of like add on when you're speaking to somebody like of like a higher status that doesn't have an English equivalent, right?
Right.
And so, but we're like, oh, well, how do we get the message across that he's like honoring this person? You just slam in the whole word honorable, which sounds so clunky and so, ridiculous. And then we internalize that as like, oh boy, Japanese people must sound really ridiculous. No, they don't. Like it's a thing that works in their language that doesn't work in ours, right? It sounds great over there. It sounds natural and beautiful, but over here we try to do the the equivalent, and it just
are they saying
clunky.
Honorable toilet and honorable sake?
No,
not really.
No, they're just adding like an extra little syllable.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, so.
Anyways.
Yeah, so Greek. We got Mary Karras saying stuff that I'm actually kind of glad that I don't know what it is.
Probably heartbreaking.
Probably heartbreaking. But yeah, we cut then to a brief scene outside. We don't know where, but I'm assuming it's outside the hospital. Although from the noise, I almost thought it was like by the train tracks or something. Like I say noise, but this is actually a piece called Trenodi, Night of the Electric Insects by George Crumb's piece Black Angels. And so once again, this seems to be a piece already existing, a piece of already existing music we have here. And it sounds again like Penderecki's Polymorphia with these like shrieking strings over here. Like I think there was another minute where I thought this was Polymorphia, but it turned out to be another thing. Like Friedkin really likes these shrieking strings. This is like if spiders laugh, this is what I imagine it sounds like.
Yeah, I looked up George Crumb a little bit. So this piece, this whole idea of Black Angels is a Vietnam piece. So he said that explicitly. That's what Black Angels is about the Vietnam War. And then some people have taken that the Night of the Electric Insects is about attack helicopters. So that's sort of what we have here. But of course, he's using that metaphor in the naming of it. So you're probably right. So he's using that name in the meta, and he's using that metaphor in the name of it. So of course you can extrapolate it anywhere. So I was asking my boyfriend, who's a music person, He's a piano technician about George Crumb. Do you know George Crumb? And he's like, oh, yeah, I know George Crumb. And so he's a piano tuner and he maintains pianos. He rebuilds pianos. And George Crumb apparently is someone that there are pieces that involve people like going into the mechanics of the piano and like adjusting the piano. So George Crumb makes his life a hell. Someone has to fix from that. So he tries to discourage people from playing these pieces. Like this wasn't George Crumb, but he once took me to a recital at a church that he was the piano technician for, and this guy came up and he had the lid of the piano open and was plucking the strings with his hands, and and then my boyfriend was sitting next. He's like, "Oh God," and like the crowd. Wow, it didn't sound particularly good or interesting, but like it is just this shocking thing to see somebody play the piano the wrong way. And it's then
almost blasphemy.
Yeah. And then he had to like talk to the people afterwards and be like, well, we have to immediately do a bunch of repairs to this piano. Like your skin oils aren't supposed to get on to these pieces of the piano, that of course a composer isn't thinking of. So that's the kind of thing we have with George Crumb. And this Threnody is something like an elegy or a lament.
Oof.
But again, another great piece of music that we might think is the score for The Exorcist and isn't, right? It's pre-existing music. What have we
like? And I don't mean for this to come off as like, I guess offensive or anything like that. But like, have we heard yet some stuff from?
I have had trouble. I can't recall. Yeah, all the famous stuff that we respond to as existing music so far.
And we do apologize, folks. Sometimes it is hard to be like, what episode did we say this thing? And like we're together.
We did talk about the composer Jack Nietzsche and how important he is. But I'm not quite sure where that music is yet. But he was a major person in terms of like creating the wall of sound. With Phil Spector. He was a major music engineer and composer, so he's done some work here. We'll find it one of these days.
Yeah. We're setting up a lot of homework for ourselves in this one. Oh boy. But yeah, so our minute ends here with Damien asking, couldn't you put her someplace else? To which Uncle Titos replies, like what? Private hospital? Who got the money for that, Dimmy? You? Right? That's from the book. And again, we end his line and this minute on Dimmy's face as he takes this in, right? Even though it's Uncle Titos speaking, we're looking at how this is affecting Damien. And that music, that noise builds. And that's where we got to cut it. But yeah, Keenan, that is everything I have for this minute. You got anything else?
Just if anyone is watching at home, with the film and can play it again, like compare the close up of Dimmy with his mother, where he looks so young because of what the lighting is doing to him, and then here where he's with his uncle, where he looks so much older and so much just broken.
He has been through the gauntlet.
Yep.
But yeah. Oh, and yes, folks, we now have a listener group for the show on Facebook. It's called Compelling Conversations, an Exorcist Minute listener group. It's a private group, but just request to join and we'll let you in. And then you can be in here with us and you can talk about the movie, interact with us and fellow fans, post questions, polls, memes, all that stuff. And of course, as always, if you'd like to leave us a message, our email is theexorcistminute@gmail.com, all one word. And we'll be sure to read it. Lastly, if you like the show and you want to help us out, the best thing you can do for our new podcast that's just starting out is to leave a little 5-star review, and that'll help other people find us. We'll show up more easily when we do the searches, and we can keep growing this cool community. So that is it. Keenan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Nathan Lane compels you.
A laugh just to keep us from crying.
Yeah.
Is that your motto?
That is, well, you know what? I'm clinging to it right now in this scene.
Lester. Is that your motto?
Is that my motto?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I don't know what you're getting at.
We got to do Lion King 1.5. He says that's our Hakuna Matata. That's our motto.
Oh, damn. Oh, God.
Trying to set you up here.
Yeah. Let's do that again.
So it's a laugh to keep us from crying. Lesser, is that your motto?
You know what, Keenan? I would say it's my problem-free philosophy.